What's going on, everybody? My name is Ben and welcome back to the D-Day Buddy Build here on Ben Builds. We are on episode 9 and today we are going to be pushing forward on the 190, trying to get as much done as possible because this thing is rapidly coming to a close. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get out our Tamiya tape, get out our hobby knife and our cutting board. We're going to go ahead and mask off the windscreen and the rear canopy for the 190. That way we can go ahead and start priming and painting without getting primer all over the place. So let's go ahead and cue up a time lapse. We're going to push through and get this entire canopy masked off, and then we'll be back. We'll move on from there and see what else we can get done. No matter how you look at it, guys, masking canopies is always a bit of a tedious process, but I'm able to go ahead and finish this all off relatively quickly because, well, you know what? The Focke-Wulf doesn't have a lot of clear parts, so that's all done. We have to go ahead and start installing that, though. Before I want to go ahead and install the actual clear parts, I need to go ahead and touch up the instrument panel just a little bit more, make sure that we have all the parts and pieces inside the cockpit, and we are done. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come in with a little bit of red brown by Tamiya, and we are going to paint the very edge of this coping that covers over the instrument panel. This is just a little bit of a leather strip, so I think with a tiny brush we should be able to just fill this in with some of that red brown color. Now I really like red brown for leather. It just has a really nice, deep, rich look to it, and I'm usually quick to use that for any sort of leather product. This is no different. We're just going to go ahead and run that brush right along the edge, and I think that should be pretty decent. Now, one of the last things we have here to do on the cockpit itself is to install the seat, but the seat needs some seat belts. So I went out and I actually picked up another Focke-Wulf kit that had some photo etched in it, and we have actually taken those photo etch out of that, and we're going to be using the seat belts for this particular kit. Now, these are some photo etched seat belts that came out of a Focke-Wulf 190A-8. Same exact aircraft, just different markings, and these are steel photo etched. We're going to paint them up. We're going to use some XF57 Buff. That's going to be a really nice base coat, and then we can just weather them down just a little bit. Good rule of thumb, guys, is always make sure that your photo etch is nicely secured. So I've got it taped down to some blue tack tape. We're now going to go ahead and dump that buff into our airbrush. Make sure to go ahead and give a nice even coating on all the seat belts. We have 2 lap belts and 2 shoulder belts, and then we should be able to install those onto the kit seat itself. We'll be good to go. So let's get this done. Cue up that time lapse. Let's get these finished. right, as you can see, we've got the lap belts in. We're just attaching the very last shoulder strap. And these actually attach to the back firewall here, right behind the seat. I've looked at a bunch of references, and this is actually where they tell you to put them. So we're just going to glue them onto the back here with a little bit of super glue, nothing too fancy. And once these are secure, we should be ready to go ahead and close up the cockpit itself. Now I want to go ahead and glue that windscreen on as well. And we're going to have to do a little bit of work here to make sure that everything looks good. And I'm not going to put on the final open cockpit canopy yet, because there's actually two canopies in this kit, one for closed and one for open. We're going to go ahead and use the closed canopy as a mask, because I don't really care if that gets airbrushed over, but we're going to use the open canopy for the final product. So now that these are all kind of glued in and they're all painted, we've done a little bit of dry brushing here with the aluminum to make sure we get those silver buckles popping. Now let's go ahead and get a little bit of a wash on them to dirty them up just a little bit. And for that, of course, we're going to be using our tried and true Quick Wash by Army Painter. We're going to go ahead and use the mild brown, and we're just going to go ahead and overcoat all the seat belts with that Quick Wash. That's going to help to kind of dingy them up just a little bit, and it should add a bit of wear to them. Now I want to go ahead and install the front windscreen. Now this one I actually can install permanently, because I don't have any intention on taking this one off the model. So we're going to use a little bit of Tamiya extra thin cement, and I know there is a bit of a concern with it fogging the clear parts, but I've done this before on different kits, and if I use a very, very tiny amount, it seems to be okay. I haven't noticed any fog. So now that this is connected down to the fuselage, we can go ahead and start airbrushing the rest of the kit. Of course, I mentioned before I wanted to go ahead and protect the hard work I've done on the inside of the cockpit with the chair and all the gun sights and all that good stuff. So I'm going to be using our spare canopy. This is for the closed version of the 190. We're going to use this as a mask so that we don't have to worry about any of the overspray seeping down into the cockpit itself. We're going to be tacking it down with just a tiny bit of Elmer's school glue. Nice thing about that is we can pull that right off. It's not a big deal. And then we can go ahead and move on to priming. For the priming, I'm going to be using Dino-Res Gray Primer. I love this stuff. It's awesome. We're going to go ahead and overcoat the entire aircraft except for the windscreen. The windscreen is going to actually get a shot of RLM 66 because that's the inner frame color. But then over that, we'll go ahead and paint the rest of it. So cue up that time lapse, guys. Let's get this thing cracking, get this thing primed. So we are primed. Everything looks beautiful. I love this primer coat. Now we have a good basis so we can go ahead and start doing our painting. To do that today, guys, we're going to go ahead and start off with a panel shade. We've got some Tamiya flat black here. We're going to drop it into the airbrush. We're going to go ahead and go back to a time lapse, and we're going to panel shade the entire aircraft. That should prep us for next episode where we can come in and we can start fading out certain panels. We get a nice decent weathering on the Focke-Wulf. So let's get the airbrush set up and get this plane panel shaded. All right, everybody, we have the panel lines all nicely shaded in. We're going to go ahead and jump in real quick before we go ahead and call it quits with some RLM02. We're going to airbrush the internal wheel wells and the landing gears. But anyway, guys, we're going to go ahead and call it quits for today. I really appreciate you guys stopping on by and checking out my episode 9 here on the D-Day Buddy Build. We just have a couple more weeks, and then this kit has to be 100% completed. We still have to finish off the aircraft, and we have to finish up our base. We haven't done the base yet, but that'll probably be one of the last things we do. So until next episode, everybody, thank you so much for joining me. You guys know the drill. Go out there, get yourself some bench time, have some fun, build something cool. And we will see you back here next week on episode number 10 for the D-Day Buddy Build here on Ben Builds. Until then, take care, and we'll see you soon.